My name is Tom and I love all types of cars, especially turbocharged ones. I also enjoy wrenching and racing, so let's see what we can get into today in the Turbo Garage. In our last episode, we started our new twin disc clutch install by getting the Talon up in the air, tearing it apart, and then assessing the damage we inflicted on our tired and wore out clutch. It wasn't pretty. So with the transmission out of the car and the old clutch removed, we're now ready to bolt in our new ACT twin disc clutch kit. It's a pretty stout piece, as it utilizes sintered iron discs to achieve a holding capacity of 770 pound-feet of torque, which should be great for our needs. It also doubles the surface area over a single disc clutch. Here's an illustration of all the twin disc components. It's an amazingly compact and efficient design that makes good sense when you need a clutch with tons of holding power, but have a very small footprint inside the bell housing. I broke it all down to examine everything, to make sure it was assembled in the proper order, and to give everything a good cleaning to ensure there were no fingerprints or other junk on these parts. This is an important step if you want a clutch that performs well for a long time. Looking at all of these parts spread out on the table, it may seem hard to believe that there's any weight savings to be had with the twin disc. So let's throw them on the old scale and find out. The ACT 2600 pressure plate and disc combined with the ACT Streetlight flywheel weighs in at 26 pounds. The ACT twin disc weighs in at a scant 13 pounds, half the weight of the old setup. I knew it would be lighter, but that's pretty amazing. Another great benefit of twin disc clutches are that they require much less pedal effort than a heavy-duty single-plate clutch. In fact, according to Road Race Engineering's testing, the ACT 2600 usually requires on average about 40 pounds of actual clutch pedal effort. Compare this to the around 20 pounds of the stock clutch, and you can see why heavy-duty clutch owners suffer the same dire condition. Let's talk for a moment about RCLS. RCLS, or ripped clutch leg syndrome, affects mostly men and begins soon after the installation of a high-pressure clutch kit. Within days, the patient suffers from extreme aching and burning calf muscles, specifically in their clutch leg. The long-term effects are bleak as well. RCLS sufferers find that their clutch leg is often much larger and more muscular than their other leg. This is not only embarrassing when wearing shorts, but it causes trouble walking, standing, playing sports. It can even cause intimacy issues. The good news is that you can help those suffering from RCLS. Just visit my Facebook page, where you can share your RCLS story or support others suffering from this terrible affliction. Thanks. To complement our clutch setup, I also picked up new flywheel bolts, a throwout bearing and retainer clip, a clutch fork pivot ball, and some transmission dowel pins. Good dowel pins are essential for proper alignment, so make sure you've got them in place when doing your clutch job. After tightening down the flywheel and torquing it to spec, it was time to install the twin disc clutch assembly. This takes a little patience, as you need to thread the bolts through the cover and then through the stands while making sure everything remains lined up. Once the bolts have a good coating of high-temp thread locker, they are tightened in the sequence spelled out in the instruction manual and torqued to spec. We're now ready for the job of reinstalling the transmission and bolting everything back in. I'll spare you the details on this, as you've already seen me take everything apart in part 1 of this video. After everything has been reinstalled, it's time to fill our transmission and transfer case oil. You know, oil selection is a very heated subject, so this is what I use and have been using for the last 14 years or so in my 4G63 powered cars. You may have better results with other oils, but these have been good to me. Here's a tip. I usually just cut off a bit of the fill lid that comes on these bottles and attach a clear hose to the end to make filling the transmission a breeze. What, you were expecting me to drink this or something? What in the world would give you that idea? While I was in there, I decided to upgrade my stock crank pulley to something much stronger and more suited to the power level and RPMs that we're running. This Fluidampr viscous damper will do the job well. I've used their products in the past with good success, and right out of the box, this looked like a very well made piece. Not only is it very solid feeling in the hands, it is SFI approved and made in the USA. Fluidamprs are best known for their internal viscous damping fluid, which is said to help reduce wear on main bearings, achieve more accurate valve train operation, and lower the risk of crank failure. Here's a look at the Fluidampr next to the stock pulley off my car. The stock piece looks like something that came off a tractor when you set it beside the quite handsome Fluidampr. But here's the biggest reason I'm chucking the stock pulley into the scrap pile. Over time and under the stress of additional power and RPMs, the stock pulley begins to separate where this rubber ring meets the outer pulley. You can see it trying to come apart here. I've heard of these things coming apart before, but thankfully it's never happened to me. Regarding weight, the stock pulley weighs in at 4 pounds, while the Fluidampr tips the scale at a little over 7 pounds. So there's a bit of a weight penalty here, but to me it's well worth it given the benefits. Installing the pulley is straightforward. You just remove your drive belts, then remove the 4 bolts on the stock pulley, and it comes off. Once the stock one is off, installing the Fluidampr is just like bolting on another stock one. Just tighten the 4 bolts, then torque them to spec, and then reinstall your drive belts. Now I'm just gonna walk this pulley right over to the scrap pile for good.
No.
Oh, owie. With all that done, it's now time to bolt the wheels on and get it back on the ground so we can take it for a drive. Here's a tip that has helped me. I like to use plastic containers to stay organized in the garage. Like this combination coffee container and lug nut keeper. You'll never have to chase down your lug nuts, and you get the smell of fresh ground coffee too. That's nice. Before we go on our test drive, we must adjust our clutch. Clutch adjustment is vitally important on any clutch install, but with the twin disc there is less travel, so correct initial adjustment is crucial. Just follow the steps that ACT provides and get ready to spend some time under your dash. Upside down. I'm getting too old for this.
Hey everybody, so we're trying out the new clutch setup here. We just have a few miles and I wanted to give you my initial impressions of it since it's much different than what I had before. So first off, I would say is the clutch, the pedal feel itself. The pedal is extremely light, and any of you guys know that have run a 2600 how stiff that pedal is. I mean, this is like, whoop, it's right to the floor. And so it's like every time I shift now, I'm wanting to drive the clutch pedal through the floor as hard as I can. So it's gonna take a while to break myself of that habit. I mean, I've been running the ACT 2600 in various cars, since 2000, 2001, something like that. And have always loved it, but my left leg, I guess, has gotten used to that heavy clutch pedal. Now it's so light, it feels stock, really. Also, the clutch engagement point is much different than a standard single plate clutch. This engages right off the floor and has much less travel. It's almost like learning to drive stick again, or learning to drive this car again. I was at a busy stoplight on a hill up here and just bucking and stalling. I had people staring at me all over the place. All right, so let's try taking off again. Now, it's really hard to explain this. I mean, it's something you sort of have to feel in the seat of your pants and in your leg and as you're actually driving it. But you just sort of, that engagement point is so fine and short now, and narrow, I'd say, is that you just have to. See, that was a little shaky, wasn't it? So I'm still getting it. I mean, I'm like 15, 20 miles in, so I'll have it down soon. I'm just gonna drive around and keep driving until I figure it out. Once you get moving, oh my gosh, it shifts like butter. The gears, I mean, the shifter just practically falls into the next gear, and that's not something I could say for the 2600. It was more of a pull it down, push it into the next gear, and now it just sort of falls into the next gear, which is really nice. Is there anything worse than clutch break-in miles? I mean, I'm just dying to get on this thing to see how it feels wide open between gears, how fast it shifts now and everything, but no! I gotta putt around at 20 miles an hour for 200, 300 miles. It's gonna be a long couple hundred miles, I can tell you that. So my overall impression is, you know, the benefits that you would get from this obviously outweigh any kind of small adjustments you have to make to your driving style. It is aggressive. I mean, you know, it's when you get into that, you know, 500, 600, 700 horsepower range, and there aren't many options really. It's either a super heavy duty single plate with a really aggressive pucked clutch disc or twin disc. So those are your options. And I think, I mean, given the power level that this can hold, you know, the sacrifices aren't that great. You just have to adjust your driving style and maybe tune around the revs dropping a little faster than they used to. So I don't think that's a problem at all. And I cannot wait to just get on this thing and see what it does. All right, folks, the wait is finally over. I've done my time. I've driven all around, broken this thing in. So let's try to get on it and see how it goes. All right, I'm just gonna roll into it in first gear here. Wait for an opening. Whoa, a lot of wheel spin. All right. Pretty good. Lots of wheel spin. I wasn't expecting that, honestly. Okay. Boy, that will get your attention. I was fighting the wheel a little bit there. Okay. Wow. That was unreal. I felt like I was on ice. Oh. All right, here we go. Let's give it a shot. Wheel spin. Okay, felt pretty good. Oh shoot, that is terrifying. Well, it shifts good. Doing this for you guys, I hope you know that. I get no enjoyment out of this whatsoever. It's strictly for you guys. Alright, let's try second gear again. Rolling into it. Whoa! Holy moly! This is why I drive a minivan. I can't have fast things. They're too dangerous. Hey folks, here we are underneath the car. I'm actually here with the tools I have on hand. I have a 12mm wrench, a 1/2" wrench, and a screwdriver. What I'm trying to do is get the yoke off where it holds the U-joint on, and I'm thinking maybe I could tie up the U-joint and get this thing moving. Right now it'll barely even move. The U-joint keeps getting hung up where it used to live, where the drive shaft, you know, used to bolt into the rear end. So what I've done is, since I have a 1/2" wrench, it's a little too big to take these drive shaft bolts off. What I'm doing is wrapping a little bit of duct tape around the bolts, and suddenly it turns into a 1/2" head. Perfect. Here, I'll show you a little bit. Yeah, here's where we're at right now. See, I've got the wrench on there with the duct tape. That's my 1/2", and luckily I had a 12. That's the head on that end. So right now I'm just trying to take that piece off and see if I can't tie the drive shaft up and drive it home. Zip-tied drive shaft. Oh man, if this gets me 5 feet, it'll be a miracle. Alright folks, so we're driving. We're on our way back home to the turbo garage. I've got zip ties holding the drive shaft up. Hard to tell how long that'll last. But unfortunately we're on some roads that if it breaks down now, I think I'm going to be kind of stuck. There's nowhere to pull off and oof. This is the exciting part of the trip. Oh, and my final impressions of the clutch. It's awesome. It's drive shaft breakingly awesome. Well folks, we made it back home in one piece. We're a little dirtier. I got a little burn on the exhaust pipe, but other than that, not a bad day. We didn't have to call a tow truck, and the car is back at home where it belongs. So I'd say the next time you see the Talon, we'll take all that drive shaft, all the drive shaft parts out, rebuild them better than new, and put it all back together so we can go beat on it some more. So hit me up on Facebook or tell me down in the comments section about stuff you've broken in your car. You've blown up your transmission, shot your drive shaft out of the back, blown an engine, whatever it is, tell me about it. I want to hear it. So with that said, thanks again folks. We'll see you next time.